Don't forget, the Invincible podcast is coming to you live.
It's going to be taking place at the Islington Assembly Hall on Tuesday, the 23rd of May. Tickets are available right now. Click the link and get involved now.
Come and join us.
By me and Laurie. Laurie, you well?
What you say, man?
Man's good. Listen, we had a funny live yesterday. Myself and Turkish, we caught up. We found out what film I'm gonna. I don't know yet. I need to go to the premiere and see if the scene's not being cut.
Tell me about that, man.
No, do you know what? I don't want to talk too much.
I'm hearing stuff about mermaids.
I haven't signed. I think I've signed some NDA, so I'm gonna wait till the film. But yeah, no, it's the Little Mermaid. Everyone knows it's coming out. Everyone kind of knows that I'm supposed to be in it. But things are good right now. A lot of things are coming.
You're a man of many talents, man.
Thank you very much.
Football, dancing,
everything,
presenting.
No, don't. We got to keep it very humble over it. But yeah,
humility.
But yeah,
that's another one of your qualities.
Exactly that. But listen, I'm gonna catch up with Laurie in a second. I was gonna give you the show plan. So obviously today you can see it's a fan zone. You can get involved in today's live. You can come and join us, speak with myself and Laurie by downloading the AFTV Plus app on iOS or Play Store. Download it, create a profile, and come and join us on screen today. Within the next 15 to 30 minutes, we'll be bringing people in. So do it, get involved. The conversation today, time to let players go, ? Very simple. Many players seeming like they're not going to re-sign extensions, or they're going to look to move on to other clubs. And there's players that we want to sign at Arsenal. Does that mean other players have to make space for them? There's loanees.
Tony.
Laurie over there with a bad chest of Ivan Toney hiatus. Really likes Ivan Toney. So we're going to get into some topics of conversations of who you'd like to see, who needs to make way for these players to arrive. We'll get into all of that today. We'll also look ahead, obviously, at Newcastle come this Sunday. We're away to them, 4:30 this Sunday. The previews will be coming out on the channel, but I think it's nice to hear from Laurie as well, because he hasn't given his opinion ahead of Newcastle. So we'll speak to him. We'll speak to the people that join on FANZONE, their thoughts and feelings, because a lot of us feel quite dejected and not very confident for that game. But we'll get all into that. You might be different, but when I was down at the coronation, when I was down at the Buckingham Palace and speaking to fans and with Robbie and James, we all felt the similar way. But before
Robbie
that,
didn't feel that way though, did he?
He said a draw. He predicted a draw, and if I'm honest, I looked in his eyes and he doesn't even feel confident about that.
There was no conviction in
and no conviction in his voice. I know he's dreading the drive up there, and I know he's dreading the drive back if we don't get the 3 points tonight, and I'm with him there. But I do want to highlight, guys, that there is a live show coming. Robbie and Lee, we just spoke about Robbie there. The Invincible podcast will be live. Islington Assembly Hall. You can get your tickets. It's at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's him and Lee.
Yeah, him and Lee are going to be doing a live show. You can ask questions, get involved.
Shout out to Lee, by the way. That's my good homie.
Big up Lee Judges. You can have a good laugh.
That's my guy, man. That's my guy. He don't live far from me either. So I live in Enfield and he lives just down the road in Cheshunt.
Hey, be careful about giving his address, you know.
I'm giving his address.
Yeah, but
it's the ends, man. It's the ends. Mind you, I really wouldn't really call where he lives at ends, but it's interesting because Lee Judges actually went to school with one of my family, and I didn't know that until very recently. They were in the same class.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Right, okay, fair enough. Well, that is on Tuesday 23rd at 7 o'clock. So get your tickets now. Get involved. It'll be a great time. We'll probably be there as well. A lot of the AFTV team will be there over and supporting. Laurie, I asked you. I know we kind of went over to me, but how are you? Everything well? You looking forward to this weekend?
Yeah. Listen, man. You know me. I'm a reasonably optimistic guy. Yeah. Same as Robbie. That's how we were brought up, to try and dwell on the positive side of things, and that's what I do, man. And I'm one of those people, so I'm a lot older than yourself, so I've seen a lot, and I think sport is and the whole challenges around it is to be embraced. So I always try and look on the brighter side of things, even when things are looking slightly gloomy. I will try and find a way that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear.
Because they say a week is a long time in sports, and that is definitely true.
That is definitely true. Okay, you're right. You're very right. Now I'm going to get into kind of the live. We have started and we're in. Please get the likes up, people, if you're involved, and we're going to make it very interactive. Like yesterday, myself and Turkish, we looked at the short list of players that are potentially coming into Arsenal and who you guys would like to see. Now it's a kind of a conversation of, well, who needs to make room, who needs to move on for these sort of people. Now we're going to start. Where should we start? We've got a few names. Let's start with one that seems, from David Ornstein, kind of says that a young player. And I'm going to do this in the poll in the chat, and I need to say stay or go, or stay or leave. Let's start with Charlie Patino. He's on loan at Blackpool. doing very well. It's not looking like he's going to return to Arsenal. But how are you guys feeling that listen and watched on today? Would you have wanted him to stay, or would you have wanted him to leave Arsenal Football Club? That is a question I want to know from you guys. Charlie Patino been very, 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 very good on loan at Blackpool. The fans loved him. They created their own chant for him. They really, really liked him over there, the Blackpool fans. And for me, very good player. Yeah, a midfielder that we would probably, I don't know. Well, some would say he might be lightweight. He might be a bit lightweight for the Premier League, but it'd be nice to have, more options. And he was very good, Charlie Patino, and it would be nice to see him in an Arsenal shirt. And I see a lot of people in the comments getting involved. But again, some people might say sell him, because I've seen in the comments he'd be worth a bit of money. Charlie Patino, young talent, Laurie. I don't know how much you might have watched of him, but someone who's creating a lot of noise down in Championship. Would you have liked to see him stay, or a young talent come through the Arsenal Academy, or would you like to see him leave or sold?
Now listen, we know he's talented. I've seen him a few times. I've heard a lot about him. I've probably heard more about him than what I've actually seen.
Yeah, agreed. He's created a lot of noise over this past season.
And the reports I'm hearing that he's very talented, very good, a lot of potential, high ceiling. He's going to struggle though, if I'm being honest, to break into the team currently. Hence why he's gone on loan. Listen, any player that comes through the academy, you always want to see them stay, because you want to see them realise the potential at their club. However, we all know how this business is, man. It's cutthroat, it's ruthless, and you've got to think about the players as well. He's got a career. I mean, we're fans, but he's a footballer. That's his life, that's his career. He's invested in every aspect of that, and he's got to do what's best for his career, in other words. So if that is moving to another club to get regular football, you can't fault him for that. You can't blame him for that. We would probably do the same thing.
Yeah, agreed. I think for me, Charlie, it's some great talent to come through the academy. It's sad to see some of the young players that we're going to mention.
It's sad and it isn't sad, because, like I said, we'd always prefer the academy players to stay and try and realise the potential at their club. However, we all know how this thing works. We all know how ruthless it is at the top. We all know how difficult it is to break into the first teams, especially at clubs like Arsenal, especially Arsenal now with what they're achieving at the moment. Just getting into the first team is a big accomplishment, isn't it?
100%.
It's very competitive.
It's going to be very interesting to go through some of these names. A lot of them have come from the Hale End, and they might be looking to better their career and get more game time. Arsenal, it feels like Arsenal they're going into a different league now, in the sense of they are now going to be competing, and we hope that maintains next season. Obviously, we've got Champions League football, so sometimes it might be a thing where we want to see players go on and progress in their career and move on, and this is the conversation we'll be having today.
Well, qualifying for the Champions League, for example, that's both a blessing and a curse for some players, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Especially if you're on the periphery, because yes, it's great to be involved in Champions League football. It's great to be at a club that's attained that level. However, especially if you're a fringe player or on the periphery, it could also mean the likelihood that Arsenal are going to be in the market for players in your position. So if you're already not getting in the first team, you can imagine we get into the Champions League, you're up in the ante. So the club are going to be looking at bringing in players of an even higher quality than they were previously. So where does that leave you as a player that's already struggling to break into the first team? That pushes you back effectively, doesn't it? And like I said, if you're a young pro especially, and you got aspirations to get to the top, you could be thinking to yourself, and you'd be, well within your rights to do so, am I going to stick around and risk another year or two of being on the fringes, or being on the periphery, or being overlooked? At the end of the day, it's your career. You owe it to yourself to try and maximise that career.
Exactly. I think that's the gift and the curse of it. And this is another gift and the curse as well, is that when you're a player that's gone on loan, and I shouldn't have started with a loan player, so forgive me, I will start with the players that are in the 11 at Arsenal currently. But if you're a player that's on loan and playing regular football and becoming a main figure there, like at Blackpool, getting chance made for you, and then you're going to come back to a club where you're not really looked at, you're there just every now and then, it's hard for a young player who's trying to make a career for themselves. So,
and I've spoken to people in the game, footballers, ex-footballers, and they've told me, as a professional footballer at a club, doesn't really matter what club you're at, you're always constantly looking over your shoulder, because you could be thinking, I a guy's come in, he's playing in my position, well, that's direct competition for my position.
Yep.
Players are selfish like that, and you can't blame them. You know what I mean? I've spoken to people who have told me they've been involved at football clubs as players. They've said, listen, whenever a guy arrives at the club, they're always watching him sideways because they're thinking he could potentially take my place in the team.
Yeah.
And as a footballer, yes, it's a team game, but it's also an individual thing insofar as you want to be the one in that first team come match day, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Listen, I want to quickly bring something up here. We are also live on Facebook here at the moment. I've got Musa in the comments here saying, Charlie is our Pedri, a definite keep, he says. So we are live over there. I see people also in the comments on YouTube as well. Some people are saying keep. It's time for him to move on. I'm going to read the poll stats for you here as it ends here. 248 of you have got involved. 39% of you say stay, 61% of you say go. So a lot of you are saying for Charlie Patino to move on, a great talent. But I don't know if that is because you might want his career to further at a different club. Like we mentioned, him at Blackpool's been superb. But a lot of you are saying for him to go, it's time for him to move on.
And let's be honest as well, you're in that midfield there's only a finite amount of spaces.
That's
and you're
very
up
true.
against some top quality players with experience. And with respect to Patino, who physically dwarf him, you know what I mean, in terms of size and strength and things like that. So it's highly likely that the manager's gonna go to those guys before he goes to Patino. So given how physical and robust the Premier League is, so you know, you would have to say that his chances of regular first team football next season are probably not that good.
Yeah, they're not going to be massive. And not Haxall says here in the comments, why would you let Charlie go? And I think many fans I've spoken with, and many fans like we spoke about yesterday on lives of players are coming in. A lot of people want to see more strength in that midfield, more depth. So if that is the case, these players that we're talking about, these young talents, are going to sadly be not looked at as main figures. So unless Arteta really rates them, and I'm now going to move forward into some other players and get really into the juice and nooks and crannies of this show and start speaking about players that we have in the current Arsenal team, and if it's right for them to move on, stay or go. And this is going to be not controversial because these are conversations that need to be had at kind of around this time, players looking to get again interest from other clubs. So let's start with some of the players we have on the thumbnail. We'll get into the loanies after this, and big up everyone on Facebook, like I mentioned before, get involved as well in the comments. Let's start. Emile Smith-Rowe. Is it time for him? This one hurts me to even verbalize. Time for Emile Smith-Rowe to stay or go. I want to put that in the chat for the people listening. Get involved as well. FANZONE is open, and we will be hearing from people as well very soon. But Emile Smith-Rowe, time for him to stay or go. Now the reason why, many injuries this season. I love the player, great talent. I remember when they were saying he's the best dribbler on the ball last season. He's a Hailem boy. There's still a lot for Emile Smith-Rowe for me to offer, in my opinion, for him to offer. But there's going to be a lot of competition next year. Champions League football, cup football. I mean, we mentioned the injuries that he's had. Even right now, for some reason, he's not featuring. I don't know why that is. I know
he's had a difficult season.
He has. He really has. But
the injuries are well chronicled. And even when he's come back, it would appear that the manager's not favoured him for whatever reason. Now, obviously, we don't know what that is. It could be just like the tactics. The managers preferred other players in that position. But if you're Emile Smith-Rowe, I mean, let's face it, he was out on loan at Huddersfield, did very well, came into the first team, had a really good season. Him and Xhaka was kind of the young players that were spearheading Arsenal's kind of resurgence. Yeah. Thanks, Nelson. That resurgence that we had was spearheaded by some of the younger players there, and he was one of those guys. You know the song, Emile Smith-Rowe and all that, and Xhaka. So for him to find himself in a position now where he's barely getting a look in, that must be hard for him to take. And I remember a little while back observing Smith-Rowe. He got injured, and then he'd come back, and I think he got injured in the warm-up. And he left the field in tears.
I think it was before City.
And I felt so sorry for him, because you think to yourself, he must be really going through it, you know. And you know,
actually not City. Sorry.
So it's difficult, man. There must have been a lot of frustration for him this season, and still is. He just can't get a look in. So what do you believe? We know he's talented.
What do you believe is the best thing for him then, or for what as you as a fan, what would you say his next step is then? Does he stay? Or does
Well,
he
that's
go?
where the conflict is. So as a fan, I would like to see him stay.
Correct.
And as I said earlier, you want to see these guys realise their potential and fulfil their potential at Arsenal, because we're all Arsenal fans. That's what we want to see. However, if I look at it from the personal side, if I put myself in Emile Smith-Rowe's shoes, I would be thinking, well, I'm doing my best for whatever reason. I'm not quite getting a look in. I've got one career, bro. You know what I mean?
I hear it.
I need to be playing football. I love the club. I love the people around it. I love my teammates, the manager, etc., etc. However, I've got to be a little bit selfish because this is my career. You only get one chance. Football, let's face it, for most players, it's a fairly short window, isn't it? For a lot of them. I remember you was telling me the story the other day of Danny Simpson, was it?
Yep, Danny Simpson, yeah.
You know what I mean?
friend of
And he
mine.
fell out of favour and,
Yep.
you know what I mean? He struggled
He's struggling, yeah, he's struggling.
in retirement and stuff like that.
big
And he's
time.
still a reasonably young guy.
Yeah.
So I understand the travails that these guys go through. I guess what I'm saying in short, if I was Emile Smith-Rowe after the season I've just had, I might be tempted to consider other opportunities should they arise. I might be tempted to look at.
Wow, yeah, because I saw there was some soft links to Aston Villa for Emile Smith-Rowe. Unai Emery, actually, there's been a lot of links for our players to go to Villa, which we're going to get into throughout the show. But I'm going to read out some of the stats here and read some of the comments. So we've got some of the polls here, not stats, sorry. Emile Smith-Rowe to stay, 69% wanting to stay,
I'd like him to stay.
31% say go.
No, I'd like him to stay. However, I could very well understand, because let's face it, Emile Smith-Rowe is a very talented footballer. That is beyond question. Clubs will be looking, you know what I mean? We know what it's like, man. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, clubs will be circling and they'll be seeing, oh, he's not, you know what I mean? He's not featured. Good young player, talented. I wonder. And they'll put the feelers out. You know how it is. You played football, so you know how these things run. And he will be thinking, I would imagine, that sounds quite an attractive Premier League club. They want me, you know what I mean? I'm not getting a look in where I am. And they've got one career, you know what I mean? I think I'm in the prime of my life, or approaching the prime of my physical life. You know what? This could be something that I might want to explore. And then the next minute, you know, deal's done. So, listen, man.
That's how it goes. That football runs. And Steve Hoff in the comments says, what position is Emile Smith-Rowe supposed to compete in? And there's a huge question there. Is he playing out on the left, on the wing? Who's he compete with, Martinelli and Trossard? Or is he looking to compete in, I mean, for me, the position that I'd like to see him in is where Xhaka plays. And I've got a comment here from Malik says, reports came out Xhaka is teaching Smith-Rowe his role. Now that could be...
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Well, that could be something that I would want to keep Emile Smith-Rowe for. I think he could figure very well in that position, and I would like Emile Smith-Rowe to say. That's me as a fan. I don't know how the club thinks, because they might be looking at his injury. You know, they want to upgrade in the summer. I don't know, but for me, Emile Smith-Rowe, it would be sad to see a Highland boy of his talent just go, especially to another Premier League club. On Facebook here, it says, Kenneth says, keep Emile. He's got a lot of potentials. He just needs time. Now, for me, I got told you can't be potential at 19 years old. Emile Smith-Rowe's 22, and he's figured a lot in Arsenal. So to then say he's got potential, I can't hear that right now in a side that's going to be competing in the Champions League and hopefully competing again next season.
I think when I say potential, I'm talking about the ceiling.
Yeah.
So every player has a ceiling. Yeah. You look at someone like Smith-Rowe. Yes, he's 22, but he's not nowhere near reached his ceiling yet.
Yeah.
So that's what I talk about when I'm talking about potential. You look at him and you know, right, that he can get better. You know that he's a young, talented footballer with a high ceiling. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about potential.
I also saw someone comment and say, what about sending him on loan? And I'm so against going on loan. You can't send Emile Smith-Rowe. Like, he's been on many loans before, and I feel like...
why can't you go out on loan? Sometimes a loan is a good solution.
He's been on many loans, and I think he's proven it. He's got the number 10 shirt. Let's not forget that.
No, but I mean,
has the number 10 shirt. Arsenal.
The obvious advantage of going out on loan to the player and to the club is that you retain the player's registration, but he's getting regular football elsewhere, and you're hoping that by the time he comes back to the club, or if he comes back to the club, he would have, of the experiences of playing, become an even better player.
Yeah,
somebody that's ready to step into action if necessary, if and when called.
Fair
so
enough. I hear.
a loan move. Obviously, it depends on the club you're being loaned to. I mean, a few years ago, we see players go out on loan to various clubs, and you're thinking, is that really a good fit? Maitland-Niles, that one.
Didn't
comes to
agree with that
mind.
one.
I think he went to
Southampton.
West Brom, didn't he?
Oh, West Brom, yeah, back in the day.
And
Yeah.
I mean, the style of football they play, the fact that they're in relegation threatened position at that time, I'm not sure how much that progressed Maitland-Niles as a footballer, other than the fact that he was getting first team football.
Yeah, I can't.
Only he would really tell you, but I'm not sure if it developed him as a player. You know what I mean? Certain clubs and certain situations are not a good fit, or not an ideal fit for the player. Sometimes they may have to drop down a division, as Smith Rowe did previously when he went to Huddersfield.
I'm saying he's done.
And apparently he was a revelation at Huddersfield. Came back a better player. So
he was good there, but like I said, I can't hit another 10 going on loan. I see Big Steve in the chat as well. Steve, get out of here. Get out of here, yeah? The season's not done yet, as much as I don't see us. Pippin,
what's he saying?
Man City. He's talking about the T-shirt. You iron my team.
Oh.
Of course.
Is that Big Steve?
Big Steve in the
Oh,
chat.
right, yeah,
I had to just check it. Was
Throwing
his channel.
shade.
Throwing shade. Thank you for joining us this Friday. Like, you've got nothing better to do, but I appreciate you being here. Thank you, Steve. Cecil's sweating because there's sharks in the chat. Bro, keep your sharks, bro. Keep your sharks, you little tadpoles. Listen, loud. I didn't even got much to say to these City, man, boy.
It's not done yet, man.
Exactly. There's still time as much
Still time yet.
It's a long,
I bet Steve the other night when West Ham, was holding him up, at half time, I bet he wasn't as confident.
Yeah, let's just
then,
see.
was he?
Let's see how he handles West Ham. Not West Ham, sorry, Leeds on the weekend on Saturday.
I must admit though, when they kicked into gear in that second half, man, they did look unstoppable. City.
Saw it live, against us. It was not. It's a madness. But anyway. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you, mate. Right, so that was Emile Smith Rowe. A lot of you obviously wanting to stay, and I understand that the connection with Smith Rowe. Listen, as fans, we want to see him stay, but hopefully he figures a lot more next season. Let's move on to another player, Reiss Nelson. We are going to open the lines for FANZONE very soon. I'm going to get through these names here. Big up Godnat as well in the chat. Good friend of mine as well. Just seeing you there. Let's go to Reiss Nelson now. This is a big one because Reiss Nelson for me has started to kick into gear massively. Made many appearances off the bench. Done really well in my opinion. I have been calling for him to start as well. That's how much of a fan I've been of Reiss Nelson. Obviously we've known how good he was coming through the ranks at the Hale end, and he was supposed to be the next prospect, the biggest prospect out of everyone. Joe Willocks, the Sackers, the Eddie Nketiahs, he was the one. So, but some things didn't really hit, and he became more of a bench player. He went on a few loans as well. Went to Feyenoord. He went to a few different places. Reiss Nelson. But he's also being linked to many clubs as well. There's likes of again Aston Villa, the Unai Emery sniffing around. AC Milan are interested in Reiss Nelson as well, so he could be going to a club.
I heard a rumor not too long ago about Crystal Palace.
Yeah, Crystal Palace was sniffing around as well, but I don't know how serious that was. I don't know if that's kind of quieting down, but it was more. Aston Villa has recently come up, and AC Milan. Obviously, he's been on loan already to Feyenoord and Hoffenheim as well. He's done his loan spells, in my opinion. A very good player. I think he's obviously scored the late winner against Bournemouth. I've liked Reiss Nelson. I feel like he's deserved his place in this side. However, liking a player is not always enough. You need to be at the levels for this Arsenal side that's going to be competing next year for bigger competitions, bigger trophies. And is he the man to stay or is he the man to go? I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear people on Facebook. I want to hear from you, Laurie, as well. Is he's another player that's come through the ranks, and would it be sad to see him go at this stage of his career, or is it the best for him to kind of move on?
Yeah, listen, pretty much the same thing applies as what I said about the other guys, Patino and Smith Rowe. I mean, you're looking at Reiss Nelson. What is he, 23 years old now? He's been at Arsenal since he was 8, I believe. He's seen as a bit of a child prodigy. I mean, you speak to people in and around the club, as I have done, and they will say to you that Reiss Nelson on the come up was considered a dead cert to make it. I think it's fair to say it's not quite materialised that way. We all know that he's an outstanding talent. We all knew that. He's had injuries. He's had 1 or 2 off the field problems as well, we've heard about. For whatever reason, it's not quite worked out yet, which is a shame. And this season, whenever he's been called upon, he's done well. You spoke earlier about that phenomenal goal he scored against Bournemouth.
Yep.
So he was high on everyone. Everyone was saying, listen, man, this guy, we've got to pull out all the stops, try and keep him at the club. I understand that Arsenal did make him an offer. but he appears to have turned it down.
Yes, correct as well. So I was supposed to mention
I would
in the
imagine
build-up.
that Reiss is a bit like what I spoke about earlier. He's in that sort of situation where he's thinking, listen, I love the club. You know what I mean? I've been there all my life, all my, adult life. However, time's ticking. I'm 23 years old. My football career has not had the impact I thought it would have had so far. I'm not getting a regular start at Arsenal. And even though I love the club, other clubs are showing interest in me. Not just other clubs, other good clubs as well. You know what I mean? You said AC Milan there. That must be a very exciting prospect if you're Reiss Nelson. He's been abroad before with Feyenoord, but with respect, I think AC Milan is a bigger gig.
Above, yeah.
You go to a different country, different culture, opportunity to learn another language, Champions League football,
season,
good money, good standard of living.
Season,
Who could blame him if he went there, man? You know what I mean? So, again, whilst I'd like to see him stay, I would perfectly stand if he was to take up the challenge elsewhere. So, I'm sorry I couldn't be more
positive.
But that's, and you kind of have to look at it from the player's perspective.
You have to.
Because like I said, and you will know this more than anyone, so you played football at a very decent level. With respect, Reiss Nelson is where you wanted to be as a youngster.
100%.
So you could easily put yourself in his shoes.
100%.
You're not getting regular football at Arsenal. It's not because you don't have the talent. It's because the manager prefers somebody else to you. Doesn't mean to say you don't think you can make it elsewhere.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, you heard the stories. Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, and the list goes on. Couldn't make it at Chelsea. Yeah. Now people are talking that as one of the all-time greats in the Premier League, and Mo Salah, by the way.
100%.
These are guys that didn't make it at Chelsea. 100%. So, you know what I mean? It is what it is.
Reiss Nelson could do a Serge Gnabry sort of story as well. He wasn't figuring massively at Arsenal. Serge Gnabry, I know many of you remember him, but then went away. And now look, he's at Bayern, and people are wanting him back. People are calling for Serge Gnabry to come back to Arsenal. So Reiss Nelson could be a similar story because he's got abundance of talent. It would be a shame
not to realise that talent.
Yeah.
And I say that as an Arsenal fan, but if you look at it from Reiss Nelson's perspective, he's going to be thinking to himself, I am good enough at this level. I just need to be given the opportunities. Unfortunately, if I'm not getting those opportunities at the club I love and I grew up with, I may also have to pursue those opportunities elsewhere. And who can blame him?
Okay, let me read some comments here. We've got Sadiq saying, I changed my mind about Reiss. I think we have to let him go. We can upgrade on him with Moussa Diaby. We have been linked with. Unfortunately, his contract is running out in June 30th, so he is a free agent.
And he's another one, Cecil. You got to look at these kind of things. So if you're Reiss Nelson, and I'm pretty sure that these thoughts would have crossed his mind, he's thinking to himself, look, you know what? This season, I've struggled to get minutes in the first team. Next season, we're going to be playing in the Champions League. This summer, the club are going to be looking to strengthen. And one of the areas they're going to be looking to strengthen is in the area that I play. Now, if I couldn't get minutes this season, what are the chances of me getting minutes next season? And in the meantime, I'm getting offers from other clubs. That's bound to turn his head.
100%.
So I reckon he will go. Okay,
it'll be sad to see him go, but I think you're right there. Gideon on Facebook says Reiss Nelson needs to stay. He is our super sub. Ralph Wenger
says sub's not enough for these guys, man. You know what I mean? You don't want to finish your career and people say, yeah, super sub. I remember that goal at Bournemouth, or remember you came on and you changed the game. That's fine and dandy, but I would imagine a guy like Reiss Nelson with his talent wants to be known for more than fleeting appearances for Arsenal. He wants a proper career.
Ralph says keep Reiss at all costs, except if you bring in Rafinha. Definitely don't want to see Rafinha. I don't want to see Rafinha personally.
No, that ship's sailed, bro.
And Ray says keep Nelson. He's been a great help for us whenever we needed him. Quickly, the poll results here for Reiss Nelson. 308 of you have voted stay. A lot of them, it's always in the 60%. Stay say 65%, and go say 34%. I mean, again, a lot of people saying stay. I think people are attached to Reiss Nelson.
If you say go, it kind of implies that you want to push him out the door. I'm not saying go, but what I am saying is
move on.
It might be best for both parties if he moves on. And when I say that, I am not in any way denigrating the man or detracting from his talent. I'm just saying, in terms of what's best for his career, it might be best if he pursues a career elsewhere.
To production, please can we change it from go to move on to make Haloi feel a bit more comfortable?
No, you can leave it. I'm just saying it's just semantics, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Let's move on to Kieran Tierney. Now this one's a big one.
This is an interesting one.
This is an interesting one for all. Kieran Tierney, now a player that obviously in competition with Zinchenko for that number 1 spot. Now a lot of fans love Kieran Tierney. I have many conversations.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, I have many conversations with fans, and they say, "Where's Tierney? Where's Tierney?"
Well, me and
Zinchenko.
you have had that conversation.
Yeah, I have arguments with people here a lot of time about Kieran Tierney, and listen, I'm a fan of him, but I do love Zinchenko. I love what he brings to this side, but I don't think that means we have to disrespect what Tierney also brings to this side.
Of course
But
not.
for me, Mikel Arteta doesn't. No, he obviously respects him, of course he does, but I don't think he is malleable enough in this Arsenal side to put him into the team and it benefit the Arsenal side. I think he's stuck to one way at the moment because he knows it's worked for so long this season, and I think that's been a detriment to Kieran Tierney. I don't think Kieran Tierney should have to change his playing style to be what Zinchenko is. I feel like we've got.
I think
stick to what
Tierney
Tierney
has been
provides.
a victim of tactics, isn't he?
Yeah.
And when I say victim of tactics, what I'm saying is, so we all know the way Arsenal prefer to play with the inverted midfielder. Zinchenko's come in and he performs that role admirably, and he's seen by Arteta as someone who can perform that role better than Tierney can. However, the people who are advocates for Tierney, like myself, are likely to say that as a defender, first and foremost, that's what you are.
Yeah.
Now listen, in an ideal world, you would want to accommodate both, because you're going to come up against teams where you might have to vary your tactics. So, you would want Tierney to stay. But again, Tierney, let's look at that. I mean, Scottish international, he's captained the Scottish team on a number of occasions. Mm-hmm. Very good player, came to the club from Celtic with a very high reputation, performed well, quickly became a firm favourite with the fans. And it has to be said that Arteta's come in and he's gone for Zinchenko. So immediately you can see the dynamic there. Arteta's gone for Zinchenko. He brought Zinchenko to the club. So that's going to be his default position. He's pretty much always going to go with Zinchenko, or mostly. 100%. So that kind of leaves Tierney a little bit out in the cold. That's the way football works at the top level. I said before, it's a ruthless business. The managers come in, only one person can play in that position, and he's gone for Tierney. Sorry, he's gone for Zinchenko most of the time, the vast majority of the time. Does it mean that Tierney is not a very good, high-quality player? Of course it doesn't. It just means that the manager has opted for Zinchenko. Where does that leave Tierney? I'll tell you where it leaves him. He's not playing first-team football, and I would imagine he's getting pretty frustrated about it. He's been very professional. He's not shown his frustration, but I would imagine privately he's expressed that. And I would imagine, like with Reiss Nelson, probably more so actually, there's going to be a whole host of clubs following that situation. I already heard about Newcastle,
Well, that was my next
Villa,
question.
one or two other
one or two-
teams, you know what I mean, sniffing around.
So if they're going to pay to 30 to 50 million, say if that was the case for or Newcastle, 50 million, say for Tierney, where are you at? Stay or go? Stay or move on?
I think if you're Tierney, you're going to want to go, because let's be honest, the situation is even more heightened than it was with Reiss Nelson, insofar as Tierney's an established Scottish international, and we all know how these things run, for the most part anyway. If you're not in the first team, you tend to fall out of favour with your national side. Mm-hmm. And Tierney's a very proud Scotsman. I said before, he's captain of the Scottish side on occasions. He's going to want to retain his position. You got the Euros coming up, you got the World Cup coming up in a couple of years' time after that. So it's important for him to get first team football. If he's not getting at Arsenal, he's going to be thinking, I can get first team football elsewhere in the Premier League and still be a good player. So
it's a great point. It's a great point. I'm going to go to the...
I'll be surprised if Tierney is around come August.
Wow.
That's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
Because I think that he would have been very frustrated. To me, he's kind of cut a figure of frustration on the bench there. I kind of honed in on him a few games, and you can see that he's a man that he's trying to hold it together. But I sense that he's very frustrated at not getting more game time.
He definitely is. Every player gets frustrated when they're not playing, but we even saw in the All or Nothing documentary how it affects him when he was injured. So I know he's emotional in the sense that he wants to be playing on the pitch as regular as possible, and people taking his position definitely does affect him. I saw enough of that in the Amazon documentary, but it's a tough one. I like Tierney.
I'm pretty sure the manager will want to keep him though.
Yeah, I hope so.
But it's whether Tierney will want to stick around that long, knowing that he's in effect second choice. That's not a good thing. I mean, listen, footballers are footballers, you know what I mean? They have egos. They're professional sportsmen. They have egos. No one wants to be second choice, you know.
I know that in my...
Even if you're a well-paid second choice at a very good club, No one wants to be second, not for long.
You give it 100, yeah. No one wants to be second choice in anything, bro. In life, in general.
And to be fair to Arteta, Tierney has had his fair share of injury problems as well.
He has.
Much less so than Zinchenko. So
he has. All right. Well, let me move on because we're gonna do this one quick because I know we've got some callers waiting on the line. So we've got 3 callers in the back room. Let me just end with this one. Let me end with Kieran Tierney's numbers. 285 of you voted. 75% of you say stay. 25% of you said move on.
I want him to stay, but I think that, and I'm sorry to have to say this, people, but I do think that the interest in him will be as such that he will be tempted to leave, and I think he probably will leave. One of the bigger clubs in the Premier League will come in for him, and reluctantly they'll probably have to let him go.
Okay, let's move on to the next player who's also in the thumbnail. But let me make this clear: nothing has come out with this at all. There's been no speculation or word that Granit Xhaka will be leaving. But I've pulled this out in a sense for the reason, that many people want midfielders in the summer. A lot of people have made it their priority. A lot of people I've spoken with said we need priority. We need 2 midfielders. Then they start moving to the centre back, right centre back for cover for Saliba. Then people are talking about strikers. But every time I ask people, what do we need to do in the summer? Where do we need to strengthen? They say the midfield, which means you either look at Thomas Partey or you look at Martin Odegaard. But every time I bring up those names, no one's talking about them moving on. They look at Granit Xhaka. So the reason why he's in the thumbnail there, and we may be able to get to the loanies at some point in the show, but it seems like the show is going to be overrun. I'm going to speak about Granit Xhaka. Time to move on, or does he stay? Now we know that Granit Xhaka said in an interview not too long ago, I'm going to stay here till we achieve something great. However, how long that'll be, we don't know. Whether he concedes, whether he believes that making top 4 is something great and he leaves, that's up to him and what he believes. But would you want to see him stay at Arsenal, or is it time for him to move on and us upgrading that position? Because people keep saying we need 2 strikers, we need 2 midfielders or a new midfielder. Is it time for Granit Xhaka to move on, or has he had such a good season, been very consistent enough in this new role that you would like to see him stay for next season? Can he compete at that level in the Champions League? And
again, I try and put myself in the mindset of the player. Now, if you're Granit Xhaka, you're playing in this new role that gets you further forward. He's been very successful in it.
Correct.
It took his Arsenal career a little while to get going, but this season he appears to have nailed it. He's become a bit of a fan's favourite, which, let's face it, that wasn't the case. I mean, I can remember arguing on live streams, on fan cams,
everywhere,
with my boy Curtis, with you, other people.
Everywhere.
I was an advocate for Granit Xhaka when Nuffman, you included, come on now.
I hear that.
Was saying, no, you didn't fancy him, he's not got it. But this season, especially, Granit Xhaka has been outstanding for pretty much most of the season. If you're Granit Xhaka and things are running for you nice right now, you're getting plaudits from the fans. The manager has said how much of an impression he's made on him. You know what I mean? You've almost got the captaincy back. You know what I mean?
That's true.
When you compare what happened when, you know what I mean, the man dashed the arm
down
and walked off, and he was met with boos, and his Arsenal future at that time was very uncertain. Now it's a complete role reversal. Why would you leave if you're Granit Xhaka? Things right now are as good as it's going to get. You know what I mean? So I don't expect him to go, and I'd like him to stay as well.
Okay, like him to stay, and we put the poll in the chat. And I want to read them out now. I see I think it's, Malik says we need to keep experienced players, and I think that's a very, very poignant point, actually. The experience that he brings.
He brings experience, he brings leadership, and he brings no little skill too. He's proved this season that he can adapt and play another role in the team, so that's to his credit. Especially when people like yourself were saying he was a bit of a one-trick pony, and people questioned his discipline and stuff
because he got caught out many a times when he was playing in the position that was more defensive. He got caught out through his lack of mobility, but this new position means he's high up the field. He's had more freedom. He's got better players around him, and he's really come into his own. And I've liked Granit Xhaka this season. And Sadiq says here, Xhaka stay, but should become a squad player like El Neni, and that's a player that I feel like El Neni did get an extension on his contract, but that's the sort of player we need to move on.
But it's the same with Granit Xhaka. I mean, like I said before, we're now in a position whereby next season we'll be playing Champions League football. You know that the manager and the hierarchy are going to be looking at bringing in players. It could well be that they bring in a Caicedo or
Rice.
Or Declan Rice, and that's all of a sudden you got Granit Xhaka, as we said before, looking over your shoulder, seeing who else is coming in. He might think, wow, I've gone from being a regular starter to here's a guy challenging for my place. At my age, does that really fit with, you know what I mean, my football profile? Because he's another one, established Swiss international. Unlike Reiss and one or two of the others, he's older. And the reasons for playing when you're older are just as important for when you're younger, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're coming to the, I wouldn't say the tail end of his career, but you know what I'm saying. He's a seasoned, mature
at
professional.
This level, at this,
you want to be
at
playing.
This, yeah,
you want as
level.
many games as possible.
100%.
But yeah, I think he'll stay. I think the manager will want him to stay. I think he's been a overwhelming success in the new role he's been given, and I think that he will want to continue, and I'm pretty sure the manager will too.
Well, Ralph says Granit Xhaka should stay. Simple. He says that over on Facebook. I see a lot of people saying Xhaka needs to stay. Xhaka is our boy. A lot of people wanting Granit Xhaka to stay. I'll read out some of the numbers here. 242 of you have voted, saying 60% of you saying stay, 34% of you saying move on. So still the majority are saying that we keep these players. And
there'll always be some fans, Arsenal fans, that are not convinced about Granit Xhaka. So for example, my good friend Curtis, shout out to Curtis, he's one of them. He's one of those that feel that even though Xhaka's had a good season or even an outstanding season this season, he thinks that we could do better. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure you feel like that, don't you?
No, I just, listen, outstanding.
You don't want to say so publicly.
No, outstanding is a bit of a reach for me. I think by his standards, yes, outstanding, but not outstanding from my standards. But Granit Xhaka has been a revelation this season. I've really liked him. I honestly, there's no off-camera talk that when people ask me about it, I'll say Granit Xhaka has been super. If anything, last season as well, very consistent. But I fear going forward that teams are going to start to work Arsenal out. City did when we played against them, and this overload from Zinchenko coming up high and Xhaka having his free roll more to the left and high up the field will get found out. Sorry, so I feel like we have to move on, and when we move on with changing ways of plays and style of play, I think Granit Xhaka we need to upgrade on. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's deserved to keep his spot, but realistically, if it's a team are going to be in the Champions League next season and challenging again for the title, we're going to need to upgrade in that position. I'm the one that's screaming for 2 new midfielders this season. I can't be screaming for 2 new midfielders, come next season, and then expect Granit Xhaka to be a main player in this 11. So I can't have it both ways as much as I would love to. So that's kind of my thoughts on Granit Xhaka. He said he wants to stay till he achieves something great here at Arsenal. He's doing his coaching badges. Complete them, stay within the club.
If you're Granit Xhaka, why wouldn't you want to stay? He's just had a very good season, like I said. He's won his way back into the affection of the fans. The manager's been waxing lyrical about him. Like I said before, he's been given the armband when Odegaard doesn't have it. So he would have thought to himself, listen man, this season, regardless of whether we win a trophy or not, win the title or not, has been an outstanding season for him. And I'm pretty sure he thinks he can replicate that next season.
Okay, right. It's now, listen, we're going to start bringing in some fans on people. Before we do that, I'm just going to read quickly the super chats that have come in from 40 Side. Thank you, 40 Side, as well, for the super chat. It says, Emile Smith Rowe to stay and move into the middle of the park. Has Arteta managed his return poorly? Surely he could have been given more opportunities. 40 Side, again, I don't know about him managing the poorly only because I don't know how he is day to day fitness wise. 40 Side back with super chat says Tierney has to stay. In fact, in games where we won't control the ball, which will happen in the Champions League, could argue he is better than Zinchenko. Very interesting points there, 40 aside. Time to bring in...
I would say he's better than Zinchenko defensively, definitely.
Okay, time to bring in some of the fans of people. We have Elliot, my good friend Elliot, coming in first to talk with us. We're going to look ahead at Newcastle and also talk about some of the players to go. Elliot, it's always a pleasure to see you. You give me enough jokes, I must say. You give me plenty of jokes. But I'm going to ask you today, players, is it time to let some players go? Is there anyone in your mind, in your head that you're thinking, listen, it's time to move on from this player. It's time to move on from these players and bring in strength in depth in some of these positions. Give me some names that you want to see leave.
Gentlemen, how are you?
I'm well.
Yep, we're good, man. We're good. Nice
Excellent,
sunny day in London today.
Yes, it is a bit sunny here in Toronto as well. I guess we share the same sun, don't we?
We do,
very much so.
Indeed we do. Okay, let's get it on. players we want out of here.
Okay, when we say it like that, it sounds really bad. We don't want them out, but I feel like it's the best to move them on in their career.
We must show the door. Let's say that. We must show them the door. There's the door. We will guide you to it. We'll lay out a red carpet for you, red and white carpet in our instance.
There we go.
And have you leave. Now, listen, you're talking about Emile Smith-Rowe, you're talking about Tierney, you're talking about Xhaka, and you're talking about
Reiss Nelson.
Let's start with Reiss. Reiss, I have time for. I believe he's a serviceable player, and I think he can give a good amount of competition for Granit Xhaka. I think he can play down the right. But it's up to him if he wants to let his career, So for unfortunately, I mean, we have other targets for the position, such as Diaby, such as Rafinha, that can come in and be serviceable to us. But I would like Smith-Rowe. I mean, I would like Reiss Nelson to stay. I think he's really
can he outdo some of those players that you just mentioned, the players that we've been linked with, or because I don't think he's far off many of those players that we've been linked with.
I don't think he's far off from any of those players. No, I don't think he is. I really don't think he is. I think he can give them a good amount of competition. I think Rafinha's stock has plummeted within the last year. And I think he would give Rafinha a run for his money. I think Reiss Nelson has come in and done a wonderful job, and he's scoring one of the goals of the season in his stead. And I would like him to stay. I think. Listen, Hale End will always prevail over any other player that we bring in.
Nice.
And he's Hale End.
If I could just ask, Elliot. So if you're Reiss Nelson and Emile Smith-Rowe in particular, I'm pretty sure you'll be looking at the impact that Joe Willock, a former teammate of theirs who was at Arsenal for many years, left. He's gone to Newcastle. He's done exceptionally well, playing in a very good Newcastle team. And let's be honest, it would appear that they're going to get European football next season. And it would appear that Joe Willock will be a part of that going forward. Now, if you're Reiss Nelson and you're Emile Smith-Rowe, you're going to back yourself to do something similar. So they might be looking at him thinking, you know what, if I can't cut the mustard here at Arsenal, there is life after Arsenal. I am a talented player. I am in demand, and I think I can make it elsewhere. So that's what I was saying earlier about, even though these guys have come up in Highland and, they come through the academy and they're valued players and they're talented and so forth, they will be looking at it from a more selfish perspective. And listen, you can't blame them. You only got one career. I need to maximise it. You know what I mean? So as much as I love Arsenal, I don't really want to sit on the bench through my prime years or approaching my prime years. I need to make an impact now. What do you think to that?
Well, then I go back to what I originally said, is that they have to take their career into account.
Yes.
Now, again, I think that Joe Willock got real lucky and landed on a side that were ascending, were taken over by a literal country, and is now in a very thriving Newcastle side. Now, I don't think these guys will be that lucky. I don't hear any rumblings where you hear Reiss Nelson going to top 6, 7, 8 side at the moment. And Smith-Rowe, of course, there's always those Aston Villa rumors, but will he take that chance being in a Unai Emery side? It's up to him. I mean, with those two players, they have to weigh up their careers. I mean, any Arsenal supporter would welcome them here. I know that some will not, but most will. And they have to weigh up their career prospects and really, make a decision that's best for them.
Okay, so picking up on, you used the word lucky with regards to Joe Willock. He's landed on his feet. Let's look at a player then that's maybe at the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of where they are in the league placing. So, for example, Alex Iwobi. Now, Alex Iwobi is in a very struggling side at Everton. But it has to be said that he's been one of Everton's best players, not just this season, but last season as well. I know people who support Everton and they rate Iwobi. Now, I would go as far as to say, if Everton do get relegated, they will need to let a few players go. And I would imagine that Iwobi will definitely find himself another Premier League club. So those are examples of players that have gone to other clubs and their football has, if not progressed, but they've done well.
Indeed, another great example that you bring up there, Laurie. Alex Iwobi's done fabulous work. I mean, he was a top talent when he left, and he's fulfilled his promise at Everton. Unfortunately, he's dealing with dross all around him outside of Onana, and and he's been placed on a sinking ship. Now, can he get off of it? We would hope so. I would think so. If this does capsize, but again, I mean, he's a Premier League player, but is he a top Premier League player? That's what we have to say about Smith Rowe, ESR, and also Iwobi. Are they top players? Are there guys that they're going to be like a Willop and kick on to better days? And I think there's no better place to fight for your place than Arsenal. Arsenal are the young side to be in, not only in the Premier League but in Europe. Let's face facts here, guys. We're the it thing. We're the new young thing out there. You know what I mean? We're the new poster children for all the kids. So again, do they want to leave this stellar side at the moment? Some would, and I would understand, but it is up to them. But I would take my chances here and see where they lead. You know what I mean? I would rather lead a Premier League champion than a Premier League also ran.
Definitely. Well, listen, Elliot. Listen, we've got a lot of callers queued up, waiting to jump on. But thank you for joining us, my friend. It's always good to see you. And we'll be back, though. And I'm sure you'll be back as well. Come Sunday, FANZONE. You know what time it is, full time. Give us your thoughts.
Yes.
Give us your thoughts. Make sure you're there Sunday after the Newcastle game, because it's going to be an electric one. It's going to be a big one come Sunday. But thank you, Elliot, for joining us, my friend.
That's an interesting point.
Cheers, guys. Just one quick one. Xhaka can stay. Yep. Tierney, again, it's up to him. I would love him to stay, but he can. If he has to leave, he has to leave. I understand.
Thank you very much, Elliot. Listen, we'll see you very soon. Take care, my brother.
Cheers, guys.
Love.
Nice one. Take care. It's an interesting point he raised there. He says about, would you rather be in a Premier League shake-up or be a Premier League also ran? I don't know, man. I think a lot of players would just want to be playing.
I hear it.
You know what I mean? Okay, it's great to have a medal. But if you've not really contributed that much, you might be thinking, well, yeah, nice shiny medal around my neck. I can always call myself a Premier League winner, but I only played a couple of games, came on for a few minutes here and there. Is that enough to satisfy players? I don't know.
No, it's probably not. Let me bring in the next person. I see here Deeney's waiting in the wings. Let me see if he's there. Yo, Deenie. What's that? Jamaica top as well. What are we in the colours? They see the sun in the UK. I'm in Medea. Go on.
Legend.
Hey, you might see me soon representing Jamaica as well. Listen,
in a sporting world where the word legend is often overused, Usain Bolt is legend with a capital
icon.
Capital L.
Big icon, yes. But I'm glad your boys are good. I'm glad you lot are good. Interesting topic we have today.
We do have an interesting topic. And I'm gonna get straight into it because we've got people waiting in the wings. So I'm gonna get straight into it. Get you asking the question, Deanie. The players that you see on the thumbnail. There is other players that I did want to discuss, but these are holding the conversation at the moment. Emile Smith Rowe, Reiss Nelson, Kieran Tierney, and Granit Xhaka. Is it time for those players to move on or stay?
You could add a couple more to that, couldn't you?
We're gonna get to them, but I'm gonna ask you that at the end of the show, Laurie. But let me ask Deanie here these four players first, and you let me know, Deanie, your thoughts on those players.
Well, with Reiss Nelson and Smith Rowe, their two journeys are very interesting because there was a point, even before this season, where people were thinking about Reiss. I knew Arteta did say that he believed in Reiss and everything else, but I feel like some of the fan base wasn't sure about Reiss because he's had his injuries and he wasn't really hitting the heights. And now this season, he's coming and showing us some performances. And essentially is earning himself a new contract. I feel like it's a similar thing with Smith Rowe because he's been injured so much. And he's younger than Nelson as well, right? He's a couple years younger than Nelson, I believe, isn't it?
22 is Emile Smith Rowe. I think Reiss Nelson.
And with him, like we've seen how brilliant he can be, and it's just been so unfortunate with injuries and getting injuries in the warm up, or it was the warm down or something like that. I feel like with where we're potentially going right now, and I will say this for all players, but with where we're potentially going right now, there is still potential to win this league, and there is still potential that obviously we can still go on and do better, great things. And I feel like with the hub where we are right now, I wouldn't want to see them leave. Like Reiss and Emile, I wouldn't want to see leave. Tierney, I would not want to see leave. I feel like he's been so hard done by this season. I feel like there could have been so many more games that he could have come in and we could have done better on. Xhaka it's crazy how people can change their whole tune around, you know? Xhaka is so interesting because wasn't it like 2 seasons ago, he was practically signed for Roma.
Yeah.
And now we're saying, you know what, this is someone that's changed his ways this season. He's come through and he's even shown us how much of a leader he is right now. And these players, I don't want them to leave because they are a part of the core of what is Arsenal right now.
Dini, I hear what you're saying, my brother. But okay, so what do you want to? Where do we need to strengthen in the summer? How many signings do we need to make in the summer?
We need 2 more midfielders. We need a right winger for Saka, and I'd say another defender.
So, my brother,
we have to remember, we still got Tavares to think.
Bro, so this is what I'm saying. But so you're telling me you're going. Yeah, you're saying, yo, yeah, I love these players. I don't want to see them go, and so do I. But you can't then be like, I need 2 midfielders, but I need Xhaka to stay. I need these players. Like you can, but that's not realistic. That's not going to happen. So this is why this conversation.
Let's say, for example, we sell Pepe, we sell Niles, we sell Patino, we sell Tavares, we sell
Cedric Balogun.
Is Mari still on the books as well?
He's just signed over. Well, he's confirmed that he's not returning back to Arsenal. He's
so
got Marquinhos as well. Marquinhos and on loan at Norwich, Austin Trusty. There's players.
So I feel like Marquinhos will stay on loan. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But I feel like because the reason why I said is because a team like Man City has these players and their depth is so immense. It's like we want to get to that. So I feel like we need to clear out the people that are already on loan that seem like they do want to go. With these players, actually, you know what? I'll say this. If we're gonna sell someone like Nelson or Smith Rowe, put buyback clauses in the deal. Yeah. I would say put buyback clauses in the deal and who knows, we could buy them back because we did that in Fabregas, but we didn't activate it and things like that. I feel like we are in a good position right now. What was Turkish saying all these years? We didn't have no assets.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To sell. Even if we do sell these players, Smith Rowe, minimum 40 million? Nelson might be 35 million minimum. Xhaka's valuation has gone back up right now. What's Tierney? Tierney's valuation between 30 and 50 million. Even if we do sell this place, that's so much money coming back in to reinvest in the squad, which is what we want to do because we need ready-made players to attack the Premier League next season and attack all cups next season.
Nice. Yeah, I hear that. Well, listen, Tierney, we're going to move on because we've got people coming in, but brother, keep repping Jamaica, keep the sun shining.
Come on.
Always a good call for him, Dini.
Big up, man. Bless up, my brother. Love you. Have a great weekend.
Dini always makes for a good call.
He does, yeah? You like Dini, yeah? Listen, we love Dini representing the yard, man, and that. We've got one more person waiting in the wings. Jay is I believe, is waiting in the wings. Yes, Jay. What are you calling in from, sir? Oh, what was?
I'm at work right now. I'm at lunch.
You're at work at lunch. The mic there is a bit fuzzy. I don't know why that is. Is that my mic or is that your mic? Just if you can speak again.
Mine. Can you guys hear me at all or no?
There, the production is going to fix it, and then they might be able to get you back in. Talk to me just quickly in the back, Jay. Let me hear you speak again.
You guys hear me?
Perfect. Production, you made magic there. Very quick. Big up the production in the back room. I'm going to let you speak to Laurie on this one. And is it time to let players go? You tell Laurie your thoughts on Granit Xhaka, Kieran Tierney, Reiss Nelson and Emile Smith Rowe. Is it time to kind of move on and strengthen in these areas, or would you like to see them stay?
Well, I think in terms of the only player on that 4 list that you guys brought up, I think Tierney should be the one staying because to replace him would be hard. To get a quality fullback in this day and age is hard. Like you've seen replacing center mids is not too hard. There's a lot of center mids, by the way, available this summer. So I think to upgrade on Xhaka would be the first thing I do. So I would upgrade on Xhaka, I think, going into the Champions League. Reiss Nelson and Smith Rowe are academy boys, so I hate to see them go, but at the same time, we can get decent money for them. Like Dini said, we can get some decent money that can be reinvested into a striker, a winger, maybe another center back. Tomiyasu's injury prone, so maybe a right back. Like we've got a lot of positions to upgrade on. But in terms of those four, I think just Kieran Tierney should be the one staying. I think the rest, if we get good offers, can be sold, I think.
Wow.
You know what? I don't have too much of a problem with what you said there. I mean, I would love Tierney to stay, but I just don't think he's gonna. I think he's cut a figure of frustration on the sidelines there, and I think a player of his talent and experience, I think he'll be thinking to himself, well, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to make a move. I've enjoyed my time at Arsenal, but my career comes first. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I also think for similar reasons, although they're not as established in football, Smith Rowe and Reiss Nelson might be thinking similar things. But I'll be surprised personally if Tierney's still there. I'll be surprised if Reiss Nelson's still there. Well, he's on the record as saying that he's turned down the move, so I expect him to leave. Smith Rowe, I think he might stick around another season, might do. Xhaka, I think, will stay.
Helped him.
Yeah, exactly.
Injuries have not helped him at all. So
yeah,
that's another thing.
I think Xhaka will stay. I think it's in his interest to say Xhaka. He's had a very good season. He's kind of turned it around from where he was, and he'll be thinking to himself, I can get at least another season at Arsenal. As we said earlier, he's doing his coaching badges. So he's at a different stage in his career to the other guys. So it kind of makes sense for him to stay. The manager's been waxing lyrical about him recently. So yeah.
I will mention before I go is that I think the situation with Kieran Tierney kind of reminds me of Leno. I mean, in the sense that they're not quite the same players profile, obviously goalkeeper and left back. But when you think of what happened to Leno, he was one of our best players during Emery's time. He was saving us a lot. He had errors in him, of course, every player does. But I think when you see when Ramsdale came in, Arteta's system is playing out the back and playing out the back and kind of getting it moving up the pitch instead of just going long all the time. Now, don't get me wrong, Leno was a good shot stopper. He had some clutch saves during our terrible season. I mean, I think like Zinchenko came in and showed that he can advance, play in midfield. Now he's been off form in the last couple of weeks, but overall he's been a revelation this season. And I think that when you sign players for a certain type of style, then they can fit in. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I can see Kieran Tierney leaving definitely. For Newcastle is strengthening a rival, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah, because let's face it, that Newcastle project is only going to get bigger, isn't it? And if you're Kieran Tierney, I mean, I don't want to say I'm speaking for him, but he would have looked at the impression that Trippier has made. Similar position, but on the other side. And he'll be thinking, listen, I can achieve the same thing there. So, as I said, I don't like to be the one to say it, but I think that Tierney could be on his way this summer, which would be unfortunate because I do want him to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unfortunate though.
Yep.
Yeah, big up. Well, listen, thank you, Jay, for joining us, and like I said, have a great weekend as well, my brother. Enjoy it, and hopefully we'll get the 3 points come Sunday, and hopefully some of these players do stay, and if they do move on, it's for very good money, and it affects both parties in the right way.
No, listen, man. If they move on, we wish them all the best. It is what it is. We've got to respect the fact that these guys have worked hard to get where they are. They want to maximise their career. So I don't have no problem with anybody moving on. Football's a very cutthroat, ruthless business. You got to do what you can do.
100%. 100%. Yeah. But listen, take care, Jay.
See you
with
later.
Respect, love. So that is it for FANZONE. And guys, if you want to get involved in FANZONE, very simple, download the AFTV Plus app and come and join us. It happens regularly, every Friday, every Monday. You can speak with Turkish, get your view on the game. It's him independently, so it's all about you guys having your say on what you've seen over the weekend, and also after matches full time. But I'm not going to end the show just now because I had Laurie start the show say, Ivan Toney. So I'm going to quickly we're going to keep this one brief. I won't put the poll in the chat. I will just get your comments in, people that are involved and still with us for this kind of closing of the show. Eddie Nketiah, stay or move on?
I think he'll move on. Oh no, he's just recently signed a big contract. Depending on the offers, if any, we get, I think he might go, because he might be another one thinking to himself, you know, it's not quite happening. I might need to shake.
Would you like to... Okay, no, I'm gonna skip that question. Balogun, Stay or move on?
Similar. I think, okay, he's been on loan. He's done really well. But he might be thinking to himself, you know what I mean, I've proved myself at a certain level. Unless I can get guarantees, which he's not going to get, by the way, that he can get first-team football at Arsenal. He might be thinking the same thing.
Okay, and the next question is Gabriel Jesus. Now, you might laugh at me saying that, but I've seen people in the comments say Gabriel Jesus not scoring enough goals, not really the player that we might need. A lot of fans being very happy with him, but there is a portion that say it's not done enough. Stay or go.
I'm a big fan of Jesus, but here's the conundrum with Jesus. We all knew. I mean, come on now. Everybody knew it when he came to the club. He's an excellent player. He's got excellent footballing ability, but we knew that he's not an out-and-out hitman like that, striker. You know what I mean? He needs backup. Unfortunately, Eddie's not had enough games to really make an impression. But that doesn't hide the fact that we still need goals in the team. And as I said before, bro, I'm a big fan of his.
You are?
An admirer. I wouldn't say a big fan of his. I'm an admirer of his. And I think he could do a job for us. So I think he's exactly what we need. He can hold the ball up. He's got skills. He's good in the air. He's good on the ground. He's strong. He's prolific. He takes penalties. He's confident. He'd be the perfect fit for me. Ivan Toney, if you can stay out the betting shops, then you know what I mean.
So you're saying if money comes in for Eddie and Balogun, let them go to make room for an Ivan Toney sort of player.
You would have to,
Jesus.
because Ivan Toney, you all know about the so-called English tax. He would cost the club a lot of money.
Correct.
But I think he would be. I mean, come on, bro. What do you think? You've seen him play.
I'm asking this.
The attributes that he has are exactly what we're looking for.
Very true.
You know what I mean? So to me, it's a no-brainer. And if you had to go, I mean, season or so, we were linked with Vlahovic. And to me, Ivan Toney is an improvement on Vlahovic. And he's battle-tested and ready in the Premier League.
I agree.
So to me, it's a no-brainer. We should absolutely be looking at someone like that. And I can't think of, outside of Haaland and that, is there a better striker in the Premier League?
I mean,
tell me.
Harry Kane.
Sorry, Harry, but he's not going to come to Arsenal.
Yeah, I hear that. But
outside of those two,
yeah, I hear what you're saying. If it wasn't for this gambling thing that's looming over him,
is getting on in years.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear without the gambling thing that's looming over his head. I think Ivan Toney would be a great fit. I just don't. We spoke about Wilfried Zaha yesterday. I just don't want Ivan Toney to come to Arsenal and have the confidence that he can just walk in and expect to be the main guy and have all that. He'd have to understand that.
Produce, but I mean, come on now. I mean,
no, I think he's quality. I think he's quality.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've gone through the strikers. There is many other players. I'm going to give a quick, before we wrap up, I'm going to give you a reminder of who's on loan. There's Alex Runnison, Okonkwo on loan, 2 goalkeepers, Cedric Suarez, Tavares on loan, Pablo Mari. A lot of these players don't seem like they'll be returning, but these players are coming on loan. Austin Trusty, Maitland Niles, Albert Sambi Lokonga, Nicolas Pepe, Florian Balogun, Marquinhos. All these players are still on loans.
There's not one player that you mentioned there that I can see coming back for next season.
Wow, I'd like to see Balogun return. I'd like to see Marquinhos go on another loan.
I think Balogun could return in the event that we don't get another striker. But as I said, and I'll be interested to know what the fans out there think, to me, Ivan Toney, I think he's even said in the past about coming to Arsenal in a kind of offbeat way. So, you know what I mean, you're not going to tell me that if an offer was made. I mean, obviously Brentford would have to be prepared to sell. But I think Ivan Toney would want to come. So he could be unsettled, if I can use that term.
Yep.
And then it would be up to the clubs to agree a price. Now, that's not going to be easy, because I would imagine if Brentford do let him go, it would be reluctantly, and they're going to want to be compensated accordingly. But he would be one of my number one priorities, me personally.
Fair enough. So he was in charge. That's who we'd be bringing in come the summer. Right, listen, guys, we have overrun, but this conversation has extended, has expanded. It's been quite a good conversation. I've very much enjoyed it. Looking at
on the show now for over an hour, we haven't even spoken about
Newcastle. And I was going to end with, what was your score prediction? What was your score prediction? Before we go, what was your score prediction for Newcastle, Laurie?
I'd like to be able to predict a win. But the way they're playing now, they're looking pretty formidable. But you know what? I've said on the show that I'm an eternal optimist. We played well the other day against Chelsea, although Chelsea, I have to say, are nowhere near what Newcastle are right now. This is going to be a difficult game. Let me go for a draw, because if I do get it wrong and we get a win, it'll be even better for me. So, yeah.
I started the show saying a lot of us didn't feel confident.
2-2.
I
Desmond.
predicted 2-1 to Newcastle. Robbie and James went with draws. And then Laura's like...
We are capable of getting a draw.
No.
In fact, we're capable of getting a win.
So why? So you're saying a draw?
But I'm just thinking that Newcastle at home, it's a bit of a cauldron. You saw what happened to us last year up there, although we are a different team to the team that we were last year. But it's a difficult game. If we can get a win up there, man, I think the title race is back on again.
Okay, well that'll be down.
If we beat Newcastle, I could see us winning all our other games.
Well, let's hope that's the case. I do see that happening as well, but we'd have to see Man City lose and draw to overtake them. So we'll have to see. It's a long, not something a long race at the end of the season, but it's on us. It's amongst us. It's coming. It's on the horizon.
4 games left. Right?
Everyone is watching. 4 games left. I'm praying to every God up there that we do get over the line, but it's looking doubtful. But hey, keep faith.
You're going to the game, right?
I'm going to the game on Sunday. Long drive up there, long drive back. Arsenal, please. Long flight of stairs up to the gods. You're basically watching from the clouds. So
I'll be in the studio. So for those of you who can't go to the game, we're doing a watch along live in the studio, myself and several other AFTV dignitaries. Make sure you tune in, man. And let's see if Arsenal can, you know what I mean? Let's face it, go against the odds and get a win up there.
Definitely. And check out all the content coming your way from AFTV, the previews, the Predicted 11, the box to box, all the content, Arts of Fans, it's all coming your way. There's a special Arts of Fans actually this week coming out, Coronation special, as it is Coronation weekend. Check out all the content coming your way. Make sure you get your tickets for the live show as well between Robbie and Lee, judges. Laurie and myself probably be there as well.
I'll definitely be there.
So make sure you do head down, buy tickets. The link, I believe, will be in the description, so make sure you check that out. And guys, thank you. It's been a pleasure this week. The sun is out, the sun is shining. We're almost at the end of the season. Pre-season is upon us. It's time to be outside, time to enjoy. Arsenal, keep our spirits high, keep winning. Guys, enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care. Peace.
Sunday, 8 p.m.
Miami Grand Prix.
We are having a party.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got Sand, we've got Sam. I'm Sam.
We've got all of us in the studio. It's going to be a great night.
We're ready to go, and we'll see you there. Here at On Track GP. See you.
Competition time again, and here is a chance to win a brand new PS5. All you got to do is subscribe to On Track GP on YouTube.
Also follow us on Instagram at OnTrackGP. Make sure you like the competition post, it's pinned on Instagram as well.
You can win yourself this right now. What are you waiting for?
Can I enter? Or can I have a go?
No.